Hello there, I'm your friendly neighbourhood fangirl, and this year I'm hoping to go to both TASPOP conventions, North and South. The theme for the latter hasn't been announced yet, but the theme for the former is music, so of course my mind went straight to musicals. Thinking of a new cosplay to create, I narrowed it down to Disney so that my character would definitely be recognisable. And since the 30th anniversary celebration of Beauty and the Beast happened late last year, Belle having always been one of my favourite Disney princesses, that's how we got here. In this video, I'll take you through everything from the design to the outcome, bringing you along to the final photo shoot, so let's begin. The costume designer for the live-action Beauty and the Beast is Jacqueline Duran, who you might know from Pride and Prejudice, Little Women, or The Batman. My first step in creating an inspiration page was finding her designs for Belle. I also compiled a collection of images focusing on different aspects of the costume, from the necklace to the different layers of skirts. Then I listed all of these specific parts on a checklist page, featuring exactly what I needed. Before we move on to the cosplay breakdown, let me just let you know that I focus on sustainability in my approach to cosplay. So not everything will be perfectly accurate, but I love buying as much as I can secondhand, and it does make a difference. Belle's shirt is white with sleeves ending halfway down her forearms. And we're beginning at the end of my shopping adventures for this cosplay, because I found my shirt at one of the last charity shops I went to. It cost $10, not the best price for something so big with very puffy sleeves, but it was a perfect find if we focus on the white straps near the neck. I cut them shorter before sewing them onto the square neckline I cut as well. For the bodice, I began by sewing the straps, 2 tunnels of light blue fabric that fit over my shoulders, ending 1 centimeter underneath the neckline of the white shirt. Using the same fabric, which I found for $7 secondhand, the next step was sewing the long piece to go around the top of my torso. First I hemmed the edges, including those of the back, left open to be laced up, and then my mum added 2 lines at the front to make it more fitted. After we attached the straps, it was time to decorate. The fabric for the front piece cost $4. The 2 little slithers of red fabric along the top and bottom were left over from making my mushroom hat, and the red embroidery thread for the strap bows, and the crisscross stitching along the right side was something I already had. My mum used our sewing machine to create 5 buttonholes along each side of the back, which to finish the bodice we just had to thread red ribbon through. Belle has 3 layers of skirts that she wears over her pants that I chose not to make. The stripes layer, the rose layer, and the blue layer. To sew each of these, my mum and I traced around my mushroom fairy skirt onto 2 pieces of fabric, sewed them together on the left and right sides, hemmed the waistband and threaded elastic through, and then figured out the length we wanted and hemmed the bottom edge accordingly. You don't actually end up seeing the rose layer, so I kind of regret spending $40 on buying it new, since we couldn't find either that fabric or the stripes fabric secondhand. But they do add some proof, and looking at the full costume, you are supposed to see a good few centimeters of the stripes. As a bit of foreshadowing for my next vlog, I brought Florence Welch's Useless Magic along to this cosplay photo shoot as a prop. The book Belle is reading at the beginning of Beauty and the Beast is red and gold, so it's a pretty perfect choice. For the necklace, I found a pair of love heart earrings for $2 secondhand, and I used a pair of pliers to separate one of the circular charms, taking the earring back off as well. After bending the link of the charm back into place, I threaded some brown leather cord I already had at home through it, and tied a knot 5 centimeters above it. I kept the other charms to resell. The apron from the film has a gingham pattern of blue squares and white lines, but I got this fabric with white squares and blue lines for just $5 from Salvo's. It was a shirt, so I saved the buttons and scrap fabric after cutting out my apron piece that measured 26 centimeters along the top, 36 centimeters along the bottom, and 56 centimeters along the left and right sides. I hemmed all the sides and folded over the top a second time to sew a tunnel, so that I could thread string through it to wear it. Belle's bread pouch is made of calico material with the pattern of 3 thin red stripes running down vertically, repeated 3 times. There's also a thicker red line running around the opening. I measured and cut my fabric from home to be 14 centimeters wide and 52 centimeters long, before folding it in half so it had 25 centimeter long sides. I drew the shape I wanted, cut it out as well as the opening, embroidering the stripes, and then folded it so the good side was inside as I sewed around its edges, making sure to leave a hole I could use to fold it back out. Lastly, I sewed it on to the other pouch, which is plain white and bigger. To make it, I cut 2 pieces of my fabric from home to be 22 centimeters wide and 33 centimeters long. The design is of 7 thin blue stripes on either side, with 2 thick blue stripes separating the 3 of those that are right in the middle. I embroidered the thin ones, but then thought it would be easier to use the front of the gingham shirt I used for the apron to fill in the thick ones, by sewing them on. After sewing the decorated piece to the plain piece, just like the last pouch, I folded the top over so I would be able to run the string through it to wear it. Belle's socks are either light brown or dark brown. It depends on the photo or design that you're looking at. And I actually needed some new socks, so instead of buying them secondhand, since I couldn't find any at all in charity shops, I got 2 pairs from Maya for $10. The pair I used for the cosplay is plain, but just a detail I noticed was that Belle's look like they might have stripes on them. Her boots have laces and end just above the ankle, but my trusty brown boots that I've used previously for a couple of cosplays were the easier option, so they're what I ended up wearing. Last but not least, we have the blue 20 centimeter hair ribbon, which I already had at home. And that brings us on to the next section. For my hair, I found a great tutorial from Mindy McKnight on YouTube. The basics are parting your hair down the middle, gathering the top half into a flipped ponytail, putting the previously pinned up sides through this, and then gathering the lower half into a flipped ponytail as well. For my makeup, I used primer, concealer, a little bit of bronzer and blush, brown eyeshadow with hints of a lighter shade near the corners of my eyes, mascara and lip balm. And we're done. During the golden hour, my family, my support worker and I drove out to a family friend's farm for the photo shoot.
Hello, my friend! Oh my goodness, this is perfect! I'm so happy. It's awesome.
Okay. Right where we parked, there was a beautiful view of the land and the sky, so we took photos just in front of the cars. I'm so proud of this cosplay, of how much effort my mum and I put into all the different parts and little details, and I can't wait to wear it to Tasbop North later this year. So thank you so much for watching this video. Liking, commenting and subscribing is much appreciated, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Incoming. Pippa. Pippa, your dog. I got that on film. Pippa. Oh, zoomies. Nice. Oh. Oh God. Bessie? Hello, Bessie. Hello.